Hello and welcome back to the Brussels Signal studio. My name is Justin Stairs and we have a guest this morning. Thank you once again for coming in, Moritz Ko. Okay, Mr. Ko is a politician from Germany. He sits with the Renew group in the European Parliament. Can I say that you are therefore a liberal? It was the liberal group. Is that a fair description or not?
For me, it's still a liberal group.
It's still a liberal group, okay. And he originates from within the Free Democratic Party in Germany. Mr. Ko, I like to start these interviews off with a personal question. If I'm not mistaken, you've been a politician since very young. You were involved in youth politics.
Yes.
Why have you made politics your career?
In the beginning, I joined our youth wing of our party, the Young Liberals, the youth wing of the FDP, but not to make a career, but just, because I was interested in politics. I wanted to do something, and not just, sit around and complain, but change things. And I joined the youth organization, and pretty fast, actually, I was chair of the youth organization in my state. That brought me to be a politician in the state parliament. And then actually, there was kind of a political career. But I think, it's a good, always when young people come to me and say, how do I become a politician? I say, not trying to be one. It comes with your issues, with convincing people, and eventually, you might have the chance to run. There needs to be also some luck on the way. But of course, then when I was in the state parliament, I got the possibility to run for the European elections.
Right.
That was actually something where I really decided I want to do that because I think Europe is our future. And that is shaped here in Brussels, in the European Parliament, in Strasbourg. And that's when I ran for the last European election.
Which, 2019, correct. You've been here in Brussels in the European Parliament and Strasbourg since 2019. So you're sort of an accidental politician?
I would not go that far because, to be honest, I joined the youth wing when I was, I think, 17, 18. And since then, I worked a lot in the youth organization, in the party and everything. But I still think that politics should be not a profession, but really something that you do, with deep conviction,
a passion
and passion, and so I am a passionate professional.
Very good. And well, there are a few subjects that I'd like to bring up with you. Obviously, politics in your country, Germany, is key, but at the same time, we're here in the capital of the European Union. I'm wondering where we should start. I know that you've been very vocal, for example, on issues such as Israel and the war. You've also been very vocal on tech issues, Tik Tok and the like. Which of those two subjects would you like to start with? I'll give you the choice.
I think we start with Tik Tok.
Let's start with the easier one, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So you were one of the first people to call for regulation of TikTok. Would you like to see TikTok banned, incidentally, or just regulated?
I never call for a ban of TikTok. I don't like to be a politician who looks for the easy solution. We banned something we don't like. But when I started to work on TikTok, I think it was 2019 already in the winter. I saw media reports that actually there was problems with the data protection, privacy issues. I'm not sure where our data is going, if it's going to Chinese security services. There was also reports that there was some issues were reduced on the platform, especially China critical.
You mean so reducing the reach?
Yes.
You mean turned down?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
There was already in 2019. There was
already right.
And I was raising this because I already saw that this platform was going bigger and bigger, and of course now we have the situation that it's the main platform for young people in Europe. I feel that we should be in control what's happening there. We should not let China be able to influence maybe also our democratic processes. And I think that has to be looked into. And the Commission, fortunately, has now the power with the Digital Service Act. I also worked on this law in the last mandate, where we can now look into it, have transparency about the algorithms, and maybe if TikTok is able to prove the Commission wrong and say, look, we are following the rules and everything, I'm fine with that. I have nothing against TikTok, but I want to be sure that we are able to protect our democracies and so on. And now we see also reports, the AfD, for example, in Germany is very successful. That might be due to the fact that they are capable of having a short, precise, populist message that is resonating. You know, these short videos and everything, you have to be very on the point, maybe polarizing. And that might just be due to the fact that they are using this media very clever, very well.
Yeah.
But I want to be sure that that there's not something behind that actually there's a Chinese propaganda machine behind that.
Okay.
And with the new reports that actually Russia is also trying with some networks to influence our elections and so on, I think we should be very careful.
Okay, well, we can touch on that. Okay, but so what you're saying essentially is that for you it's a security issue, sort of national security or regional security. Okay, and you're worried about foreign powers possibly influencing the European elections, for example, in June. And you also made reference there to a scandal, let's say, that's broken over the last week, whereby, according to unnamed secret service sources, maybe Russia has been paying certain politicians to influence the elections, and also China then, possibly, according to what you think. Okay, but you don't have any evidence of this. You just want, is that correct?
No, I don't have evidence of that. I see the reports, of course, was now. Today, I think there's new headlines that the number second on the AfD list actually got paid. So we have to look into that and see it. But, you know, if I were Russia and China, my geopolitical interest would be to destabilize the European Union and Russia even more than China. And I think we should be aware of that. And China would never allow a Western big platform to influence 20 million or something in Germany alone, 20 million users on this platform. They would not allow that. Why are we allowing that? And are we actually making sure that our rules with the Digital Service Act and so on are enforced and applied? That's what I was calling for. And I wrote a letter to Commissioner Breton, also hinting on a study from the Rutgers University showing that on TikTok some issues might be reduced compared to Instagram, for example.
For example, which issues?
Stand with Israel, stand with Ukraine, Hong Kong, all these issues that might be against the interest of the Chinese Communist parties. Look into it. I want to if they can prove that wrong, all is fine, but we have to look into that. And Commissioner Breton answered me that also in the investigation that is currently going on, that the European Commission is doing under the Digital Service Act against TikTok, they are also looking into these issues, and that's actually what I called for since 2019.
Okay, so here we are at the beginning of April now, European elections in June, and as you told me before we started this interview, in fact, politicians such as yourself basically have 3 weeks left in the EU bubble before you go back to campaign. The DSA, the Digital Services Act and related legislation, I mean, that all takes time. There's probably going to be court cases, I imagine. But isn't it a bit late now to investigate potential influence? Isn't it already happening?
That's why I called for it since 2019. And I think the Commission could have been faster and stronger in enforcing these issues. That's actually something that what I feel that the Commission actually lacks. They are very good in proposing new regulation, but enforcing what we already have that is pretty weak. You could also, of course you can say the Digital Service Act is now coming into power, but we already had data protection rules, and we know that they're not applying that. Actually, not only Chinese companies like TikTok, but also big US companies are not really applying to the data our data protection rules. So enforce them. That's
Right.
what I want to actually what I think lacks. After 4.5 years now experience in the European Union, working in Brussels in the European Parliament, I think what lacks us is that we enforce the rules we already have and make sure that they are applied, and not always bring new regulation.
Right. Okay. I think lots of people would agree with you. But on this specific subject, and you mentioned that it's a data privacy issue. Well, what about the free speech issue then? I mean, you're worried that platforms such as TikTok are being used as Trojan horses, let's say. What about reports? I've had other members of parliament sitting in that seat who say, for example, from the AFD, which we're going to talk about, who say that their reach has been deliberately reduced, not just on TikTok, but on Twitter, without them even receiving any kind of formal notice or any kind of explanation or justification. What do you think about that?
I think that's why why the DSA is actually composed, not as a something where we say this, we don't like this issues or we don't like that opinion, but that we set a clear set of rules that actually we have transparency on the platform, on the algorithms, that there are complaint mechanisms also when content is taken down. So it is focused on illegal content, for example, but also there are stronger complaint mechanisms for people that say, why is my content taken down, for example. So in this new digital world where a lot of our communication and of our democratic discourse is happening, we of course need rules. We also in the offline world on campaigning and everything, we have rules, and we have to protect them also in the digital world. So I'm not against free speech. I'm from the Free Democrats. I cherish it a lot, but I want to be sure that everybody has the same possibilities and we have a fair competition, different opinions, different political views, but we have to make sure that that not the Chinese government can interfere into this discussion. And I think that is what I want to protect.
Okay, and so in principle, in theory, you are against censorship, correct?
Of course.
Right, and that would apply to the so-called popular parties on the left and the right as well.
Of course.
Right, okay. So, I mean, if we had a Euro MP in here who tells me my reach has been turned down without any explanation, you would be against that in theory?
I would want to see the evidence about it.
Right.
But I would also like to see what algorithms are already in place and how they're functioning. And we know that the algorithms on TikTok especially are pushing extreme content stronger because it's snappy, it's
people
on.
People
and
watch it.
It's a big problem for democracy if you are able to tell lies and spread them with a huge reach. Then we are not in this classic old version where we have different opinions and freedom of speech, but we have propaganda. And that is also something already with older media where we discussed about that. We have regulations on TVs and everything because we have to make sure that it's a fair competition. And of course, not just turning down Maximilian Krah is now the big case. Just turning him down, I think they are not trying to say, the AfD is so strong on TikTok now, we have to do something about it, we turn him down. That's actually also not what I want. I want to have fair competition there, and I want to make sure that algorithms don't work in a way of destroying our democracy. That's what we want to protect.
By making them transparent, I guess. That's the solution. Okay, you mentioned, just for our viewers, you mentioned Max Krah, who is the head of the AfD list here in the European Parliament. In fact, he's been in here. Okay, well, let's move on then to Germany and the rise of populism. We have the AfD, one of the largest parties according to the polls now. We also have the rise of populism on the left. Sarah Wagenknecht.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Why is Germany now such a polarized country? And what does this mean for people like you on the center?
Still, I think you have to see that the AfD and Sarah Wagenknecht combined, they still have 25% or something. So, first of all, I would not panic. But still, it's a big problem. Why the AfD, without proposing any solutions, 20% of voters vote for them? I think the main problem, pro-European and the democratic, for me, democratic parties have made in the last years is that we didn't solve enough problems. Big problems make actually those bigger that, have easy solutions. So migration is a problem. Where we now found a European solution on the migration pact, we will vote on it next week, where we have a new solution that's actually combining our humanitarian responsibilities with also our capabilities and bringing order in the system again. I think that is very much needed, and I think that that will lead to actually reducing also the amount of people who support the extreme parties when we actually
when they see that a system's in place that works.
Yeah, when they see that their problems are solved.
Right,
and
which is going to be after the elections now,
yes,
of course, isn't
of course,
it? Right.
But I think you can also talk about this already. And of course, we have to fight in the main parties. They actually have to show that they have differences, that they find compromises, but they also have different positions and different ideas, because the extreme parties saying all these old parties in the middle, they actually more or less part of the same. You could put them together, you always get the same results. And I think that's basically not true. And we have to show that what different visions of Europe for the future we have.
Okay, now in fact, let's talk about that then. So within your coalition, within the government coalition in Germany, there are some differences of opinion on subjects. I'm wondering if you're thinking about nuclear energy, for example. This is a difference, right, within the coalition, and your position is pro.
We would have we have some nuclear plants that were still running.
Yeah.
We fought very hard in the government to make sure, especially in the energy crisis we had, to let them run a little bit longer.
Right.
For me, I could also imagine, or the FDP could also imagine, that we let them run for some more years, because we have now a very difficult transformation period where we want to get out of coal and nuclear at the same time.
Yeah.
And we see that the energy prices are rising, and it's a problem for competition or for competitiveness in Germany. So, of course, we have a different position here. In the end, you have to find compromises in the government. I know that SPD and Greens have a different position on this issue. That was what achievable. But, of course, our party is in favor of using nuclear for a transition. Actually, I think we have to look into fusion. Because there is a huge development within the last years.
Right.
Could be a big possibility.
And the coal plants, I understand there's been an announcement just over the last few days that another 15 coal plants are being shut down in Germany. Are you in favor of that?
That is due to a plan also with the emission trading system. Sometimes it's not even that competitive anymore to have them, but I would see that we should, in our energy and green policy in general, I would look towards the ETS systems way more, because it makes it more difficult or not difficult. It gives CO2 a price, and that's actually where I think the smartest regulation we could do. Let the market decide what different energy sources are the best, or
based on carbon dioxide emissions. Okay, ETS emissions trading system. Okay, now I want to keep moving.
Yes.
We could just talk about German politics, but we're here in Brussels and there are elections coming up.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask you, as we're now pretty close, 3 months away, the Liberal group, the Christian Democrats, the European People's Party, and the Socialists, you could say this is sort of at the centre of the European
coalition. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, is that the future, the grand coalition?
I think there's still a future. I think we will see that right-wing parties will rise. That all the projections show that the two right groups will have will be stronger maybe in the next European Parliament. But there's a campaign now. Last time I think it was also they all said the right will be stronger in the next Parliament. In the end, it didn't turn out that strong. In the end, actually, the Greens got a push in the last election because of all the discussion about climate change and Fridays for Future. So let's look what happens in this election. I'm fighting for strong liberals in Europe, and I think we have the main solutions for the big challenges ahead. Security. We live in a different geopolitical world. We need a Europe that is capable to act and capable to defend. We need a more competitive Europe. Let's work on a strong economy that works for all. We need to fight inflation, because people need to see that they can use their pockets to actually that they feel that not everything is getting more difficult for them. So there are the solutions. Let's go out in the campaign, have a good campaign, and I hope that
you're optimistic.
Yes, I'm a liberal.
Well, nevertheless, your party is down in the polls from where it was this time before the last elections. If I'm not mistaken, you were at 12%, and now, according to the polls, at least you're at 5%. Is that correct?
That's true, but there's a campaign now, and we will see what happens. Of course, we are part of the government now, and not everything is easy in Germany. I'm not like blindly optimistic, but I think let's campaign. Let's see and let's see the voters really when they in the end they make the change. Right now, 40% of Germans know at all that there's the European elections coming up. So lots of people don't know that there's
everything to play for.
Don't know who to vote for. My main message and my main goal in the next week will be, or next weeks to come, will be to convince as many people as possible.
Okay, and you're number 4 on the list, is that
yes.
correct? And how many MEPs do you have at the moment?
5.
5 in the European Parliament. Okay.
And we want to have more.
Of course. Now, you touched on, I'm going to keep going because that's 23 minutes I can see on the clock behind you. You mentioned geopolitics. We can't not talk about war, can we? You've been, now, is it fair of me to call you a supporter of Israel?
Yes, I'm against anti-Semitism.
Right.
And I think Israel has a right to existence. That is very strongly in the... for Germany especially, a responsibility. Of course, we have to see that this war has to be in line with humanitarian needs and with international law. But I think we also have to see what started this war. This was the terrorist attack on the 7th of October. And I think what my main position is, this war is going on now. The European Union has to think, actually, what is our policy towards the Middle East? What did we do within the last years? We paid a lot of money to the Palestinians, to the Palestinian authorities, and I want to have check on where the money is going. Is it going really to humanitarian support, which I would support? But I want to make sure that we don't support also the terrorist attacks or terrorist propaganda and works.
Right. Here you're referring to allegations that terrorists infiltrated some of the UN agencies, including the UNRWA. Right. Okay. And so, I'm bringing this up now because obviously over the weekend we've had the Israeli assassination of an Iranian general in Syria, and we've also had the killing of humanitarian aid workers. Are you in favor of a ceasefire?
I think that that Israel has to comply to international law, and I think that Israel is doing that in big parts of their operations, not all of them. I definitely think that this attack on the humanitarian support that was a mistake, and that they clearly stated so. And I also think that at some point they have to think about what they actually want to achieve with this war. And there's also demonstrations and discussions going on in Israel, because Israel is a democracy in the Middle East. And I would think that this democracy is capable of finding the right solution on that.
Let me push you, please. Are you in favor of a ceasefire?
I'm in favor of a ceasefire if, in the moment, Hamas releases all the hostages.
Okay. And also, you mentioned you want the EU to review its financing, have a good look at where this money has gone. Now, this is a divisive issue, not only within countries, but also even within your group. Within the Liberal Renew group, you have, for example, your Irish members who do not share your position, correct?
Yes.
I mean, and this is then mirrored on an EU level, where you have countries such as Spain, which want to recognize the Palestine state, for example, straight away.
Yeah.
So you're talking about reviewing EU policy in the Middle East. I mean, is there an EU policy in the Middle East?
The last year, the policy was we don't achieve anything, but we pay. And I want to change that. I think we have to push stronger for peace in the Middle East, and we have to make sure that we achieve that. And I think our policies within the last 20, 30 years didn't achieve that at all. And that's why we have to be more conditional with the money we give. We have to make stronger effort to actually achieve a long-lasting peace, a two-state solution. And I know that it's a very difficult subject, but I'm not a politician that shies away from these difficult issues. And that's why we need to discuss about that also in the European Parliament.
Okay, now you talked about money. Okay, now let's move on to the other war, one of the other war, Ukraine, right? Now, obviously, the money issue seems to have been settled in that the European Union and member states are financing Ukraine. But there's another issue now, and that is, well, two issues: tourist missiles in your country, and then boots on the ground, Macron, and the possibility of sending Europeans to fight in Ukraine. Quickly, do you think European soldiers should or will be in Ukraine soon?
I think we should not make the mistake that we are doing right now all the time, saying what we do and what we won't do, because that's actually something what makes it more easier for Putin to see how we might react. So I think we need some strategic ambiguity to actually support Ukraine strongly.
So that sounds like you agree with President Macron in that it's not ruled out, but...
No, I think I would not rule out anything to support Ukraine. But I think we have to discuss what is realistic right now, and that would be to send Taurus as soon as possible.
The missiles. Long-range missiles.
To have stronger support for Ukraine, because it is in our... It's not that, when we talk now, we want peace or something. In Germany, the extremes are, we need peace there. There will not be peace. If we have peace now, it will lead to putting troops. Putin will wait for half a year, so he has more power, and then he will attack stronger than ever. And he will try to get the whole Ukraine and even more. And that's something we cannot accept. That will make Europe... for the future, it will make Europe not safe. It will be always a danger for Europe. That will also be for the prospect for European future will be a huge difficulty. We will get a huge migration problem if Russia actually succeeds, because where will the people, the Ukrainians, go?
Okay, so right.
So it's in our interest, and it's actually also, we are the ones that are fighting for preserving international law here. We should really do that stronger. And also when you look at the geopolitical situation, people talking about China invading Taiwan, they are looking pretty closely there to say, look, we see how strong or not strong the West reacts to this, and we might make our assumption what that means for the
right. Okay, Europe has to appear to be strong. Okay, so your argument is one that I've heard repeated a number of times, which is we have to stop Putin now, or it will be worse in a few years. Correct?
Definitely.
Okay, and stopping Putin, that means potentially, we're not going to rule out the sending of European troops. Okay. What about World War III then, Mr. Kerner? I mean, I don't know if you have children. Do you have children?
No. I think when we look back to World War II, it was stopped by a strong reaction of the Western allies, and it was started, or maybe also a little bit, the basis was laid with Neville Chamberlain, not acting strongly against Hitler. That is, the historical comparison we have to make. And right now, when you look back to what Putin did in the last years, it's not that he, at some point stopped. He invaded different countries. He went even further. All the peace talks and Minsk and everything, he went further. So I think if you want to prevent a World War III, then you should now act as a strong, united Western allies and say, look, this is where we stop.
This is the prepare for war. If you want peace, prepare for war argument.
Yes, of course.
Essentially. Okay.
Definitely.
And then you hope that war doesn't break out, I guess, after you've put that policy into place.
You have to make sure that Ukraine actually, if you want to have peace there, then you have to make sure that Ukraine can negotiate out of a position of strength and not out of a position of weaknesses. And that is what we have to ensure as the West.
Okay, 32 minutes. I want to come back here to Brussels and talk about, we've touched on the European elections. After the European elections, there will be the reappointment or there will be a new Commission President, or Mrs. von der Leyen will be reappointed. Will you be voting for her if you're re-elected?
I'm fighting right now for stronger liberals in the European Parliament. And right now, I hope that we will be even stronger, and maybe we have a Commission President.
A liberal, maybe. A liberal is Commission President.
Maybe. So right now,
is Mr. Breton?
No, not Mr. Breton. Right now, it's Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann. And let's see. So we have a campaign now. I think what people hate when we're going into a campaign and we want to hear their voices and their votes matter, then already to say we vote in favor of this or that person in the end. So let's see where the majorities lie, how the campaign goes on. And of course, in the end, I'm realistic. The European Council will have to put forward a candidate and so on. But right now, I'm running as a liberal, and that's why I'm fighting for as many votes for European liberals as possible.
Okay, let me put that question in a different way then. What do you think to the performance of the Commission President over the last few years?
I voted in favor of von der Leyen and I regret it.
Why?
Because she, I think she did too much regulation and red tape. Her focus was not a conservative focus, but she was bringing forward lots of regulation. I liked the idea of the Green Deal because there was also the word deal in it. Climate change and fighting climate change has to be a huge priority, but we have to make a business case out of it, and that is what actually the von der Leyen Commission didn't do. And my main critic is, and that's one issue where I worked a lot on, is the rule of law in the European Union. And we had to push her for a very long time to actually really apply the rule of law conditionality. And then we saw actually von der Leyen giving away 10 billion euros to Viktor Orban so that he could go out of the room and I don't know where he went, to the toilet or something, to stop his veto on Ukraine. But that was actually, I think, a bad mistake, and her track record on rule of law was very bad. And that was actually something she campaigned on also. So I'm pretty disappointed with her during the last ones. And I'm someone who actually voted for her.
And you voted for her, right. And the performance of Charles Michel, the president of the council? You can be honest.
I think
just between me and you.
Yeah, just between me and you in a big interview. The main task of the council president is to organize the European Council meetings, and I can say less to that how he did in this position. But generally, I would have hoped that Charles Michel would have had a stronger input on the European level, also as a liberal, a stronger liberal footprint as a European Council president.
Okay, so a bit disappointed in him as well. Is that fair?
You can guess what.
Those are my words, not yours. Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yes.
Okay, fair enough. Moritz Ko, thank you once again for coming into the Brussels Signal studio. That's 36 minutes, and we very much appreciate your time. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.